Hey Quilties, it's Karen Marchetti. This time on Dual Process, Kat Fehr and I are working on an on-point square bars quilt. So grab your printable, we both have an idea for you, and we'll get started. Hey guys, it's Karen. So for my idea, you'll see here, I've already chalked out a couple lines, right? And that's just so that I have a reference point of where to stop my little swirlies. I'm going to assume that I can quilt about this much of the quilt, and then this much of the quilt, and then finish off that bottom. So you'll see, I'm not going to be able to stitch this continuously. There are going to be some starts and stops. All right, so the first thing I would do is I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to just do my little swirlies up to that chalk line. So just like that. And then when I'm done, I can ditch that. Then I want to do some straight lines here. And of course this would be with a ruler, so it would be much straighter than this. So from here, I can do the swirlies here. And trying to make it as continuous as possible. It's not always going to be, but we'll do the best that we can. And from here, I would then ditch this. And you'll notice these lines now go this way. Again, if I can, again, I'm going to assume I can get to about here with my first pass. So I can do half of my swirlies here. Oh, I'll change my pen back. There we go. I can do half of my swirlies here, and here, and here. So then I'm going to ditch this and ditch this. And then, whoops, that was really bad. Let me fix that. All right, half my swirlies here and here. And then I will ditch this and then ditch straight up to here. And these lines follow this direction here. So I can come back and do my ruler work here. Again, it would look much better than this drawing. So you can tie off, or you can just start your swirls from there. They're very forgiving with directions. You can do them just about any direction and just fill that space. I like to vary the sizes just for a more visual interest. So we'll fill that up, get over to here and fill this side. Again, the more you vary the sizes of the swirls, you get a lot more interest. So we'll just fill them. They'd be much neater, but you get the idea. And when I get to here, I will ditch all of this and then ditch down here. And then I'll tie off, and then I'll finish my ruler work over here. I'll stitch this ditch and then start my ruler work in this area. Okay, so this bar right here is going to get, you can't stitch the whole thing at once because you can't fit that in your throat space. So what I would do is just make sure I'm staying with this straight line, and I would do my ruler work in here. Just making sure to be as straight as possible. Filling that in, come down here and finish this side. And that's about as far as I can go. I would try to get there and then ditch that area right there. I would leave my needle down and then roll the quilt to the next section, which would be right about to there. So my needle's down, so once I've rolled it, I can finish this area here. Ditch this, finish my swirls in here. ditch anything that's not ditched, and then go ahead and do the ruler work in this area. Tie off, come over here and finish this section with the ruler work, and then finish that ditch work. And then this section and this section just repeat exactly what we just did. So I will work on that and I'll bring you back at the end. Oh, I almost forgot, we have to fill this little section before we roll. So we'll fill that in with the swirlies. And again, I would leave my needle down right there and then do the roll to the next section. So I will bring you back when I'm done. Okay, so now we just have this last little section of ruler work. And the ruler work, I mean, it seems like a lot, but it does go fairly fast as long as you keep that angle the right direction. And then you could just double check, make sure you haven't missed any of your ditch work. So then if this were a real quilt, I would then erase my chalk lines and that would be it. So again, it's a little messy, but you get the idea, and you do have the really nice drawing there to reference. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Hey everyone, it's Kat Fehr. Today we're doing this quilt top on point square bars. So this is what the quilt top looks like. And these are the patterns that I chose. And once again, you can see that I went into the store on the Pattern Cloud to audition some patterns. So the ones that are gold here and gold in our project tab means that I just have not purchased them yet, but we can still see which patterns I chose. So for these, triangles here on the edge, I chose this one, which is Mystical Prism Center HST 3 P2P. So it's a point-to-point pattern, and this one is by Nancy Hackey from Wasatch Quilting. And then this pattern here is P2P Fleur D, and this is one of Anne Bright's from Anne Bright Designs. And so not only did I use this in here, but I combined it to make a square, rotated it, and then divided it in half to get these other triangles at the top and bottom. So I'll show you how I did that momentarily. And then for this chevron here, this one is VV Volt Flames P2P, and this is by TJ Spicer, right? TJ Spicer of Stitch Hat Happy. Sorry, TJ, if I pronounced your name incorrectly. And then for this one, I chose this pattern down here, which is KP Chevron Flame, and this is by Carly Porter. When it came to placing these ones on the side, that was pretty easy because this is a point-to-point pattern. So I just used Draw Pattern and clicked them on in there. So I took this P2P Fleur du pattern, and the first thing I did was mirror it. Okay, like that. And then I order joined and combined it into one pattern. Then I rotated it because I decided that I liked the look of it this way better. Okay, so that's how we get the one for the diamonds over here. So then we just used your handles to make it fit. Awesome sauce. Then, once it's the sizing that you like, I just rubber stamped copies into the other diamonds, on point squares, whatever you want to call them. All right, so now for the triangle at the top and the triangle at the bottom, to keep this consistent, this would be the bottom half here. So, turn down the nodes and divided out the pattern. So this guy comes down to the bottom. Then use your handles to make it fit. There we go. Maybe a little bigger there. Okay. And then same thing for the top. Now this technically is two separate patterns, so I just really quickly order joined and combine them. So that's easier to adjust the sizing as one pattern. Excellent. So that gives us the design for this part. Let's move on to the chevrons. So I just take the pattern and drag it on in here. Now you can see, as is, this particular pattern doesn't fit perfectly, but we have gray handles for that. So we can go like this, and move it around to how we like it. And then I even went a step further and divided out the nodes so that this particular one could be taller and really close to the center. And then this we could turn at more of an angle and shrink it to fit in the space better. And same thing for this side. Turn it at an angle, shrink it to fit in the space better. All right. And then once you're happy with that, you reconnect the nodes. Let me turn down my line thickness so it's a little easier to see. There you go. And connect with end snap. And we're actually just going to delete this part here, make it easier, little shortcut. Connect with end snap. And then you can straighten these guys out, smooth them out as needed. All right. So now we can simply rubber stamp these all along in here. And then we can do the same thing on this side. So now you can make any further adjustments that you might want to make, and then come on in here and attach the endpoints. Smooth that out as needed. There you go. Now, for this last one here, it really bugged me that it gave me this big empty space. So I divided out this particular one. And then made some adjustments, scooching it over closer. Okay. Bring that to there. Let's go ahead and divide, delete, and reattach. There we go. Awesome sauce. I like that much better. Alrighty. And now we'll do the same thing for this side. When you're happy with how it all lines up, you can order join and combine these into one pattern. So order join, combine. And then simply rubber stamp into the other sections where this one will be placed. Let's address all the spots where it's going to go off the quiltable edge. We'll start with the bottom here, and we're just going to fill. So if we make ourselves a boundary all around it, we tell Creative Studio fill outside. It'll fill outside of the boundary, nice and pretty like so, and we'll do the same thing on this side. So draw a boundary along the bottom here, and then just make sure that the rest of the patterns are completely inside of it, so that when we do our fill outside, it's going to fill anything that's outside of this boundary, which means these guys here will line up perfectly. So fill outside. Ta-da! So now we'll do the same thing for the other areas. Here's a little tip. For examples like this, or just that little bits outside of there, make this whole section a little smaller so it fits outside of there. Therefore, we don't get the little fill line right in here. So we can just divide it randomly. Use our handles, shrink it down, and then reattach those nodes. And let's do the same thing for this guy. And then reattach those nodes. Oops. There to there. Let's do the same thing for these two over here. And now we can do our fill outside. Perfect. The same exact principle applies for these chevrons here. I did the same exact thing to get them all to fit in here. So now that we have our patterns placed, we have our mock-up done, we know what we want this to look like, how do we stitch it out? Excellent question. A big part of that is going to depend on how much can you fit in your quiltable space and how comfortable are you with nodes, because you are going to have to do some dividing of patterns and lining up of patterns in order to stitch this. So if your quiltable space, say, gives you this much here, okay, so everything below here you would not be able to stitch. So if this is what we can stitch out, we would obviously have to divide this pattern. So divide, divide. So we could stitch this one, this one, this one, and we could stitch this whole section here. This top one, we would have to divide as well over here. So, and this is where it's going to get tricky as far as lining everything up. So maybe now that we know that we can't fit that whole thing, maybe we scooch this guy down a little. So we would have to divide the pattern further and then line them up when we roll the quilt. And we know with shrinkage and everything, that can be a little tricky. What if we load the quilt sideways? If we load it sideways, there'll be a lot less spots where we'll have to divide the pattern. And not only that, but it'll be easier to divide it because you only have to line up, say, one section in each one rather than a whole bunch. So For example, let's pretend that our first quiltable space is about here-ish. Okay, in that case, you would quilt out this row here and then quilt out this row here. Now, even though you could still fit these parts in, I would wait and I would roll the quilt a little bit so that then what you would have for your quiltable space is, let's say you could fit probably here-ish. So now that we know this is what we can fit, all we have to divide is a couple of spots here. We could divide this here, and what I would almost do even is bring this on in like so. Now it's a polyline because we filled outside prior, but that's okay. And then delete that little section there. And I would even just scooch this one in a little. And so you could do the same thing here. Scooch this down a little bit. There we go. Just a smidgen more. So then when the stitch is out, you're not going to notice that you had to divide it there. That's a good spot for that. So now you could stitch this section, and we'll do the same thing over here. So let's divide right here. I'll bring that to there-ish. Bring this one down. Okay. And let's go ahead and scooch this up as well. Just move it on up in there. Just like so. Oops. I wanted endpoint, not grid snap. There we go. And then this one can stay up to there. That one can stay there. Then when you roll the quilt, you just have to make sure that these two line up. So that's going to be so much easier than all the other spots. And let's do the same thing over here. You'll just keep playing around with them until they fit the space in a way that looks pleasing to you. And so once again, we've made this an easy way to split. We don't have to worry about lining anything up. So you'll just continue to do that along the ways with each row here as you roll the quilt. And that'll be a lot easier to quilt it. And here's what our finished quilt would look like. I love it. If you do a mock-up, please share it with us on social media. Use the hashtag #GamelQuilting. Thanks for watching this episode of Dual Process. We hope that it has inspired you. Till next time, thanks for watching.